It can strike anywhere, anytime, and with frightening speed, take human life. To protect us from its ravages, a rare breed of heroes are trained and willing to face the dangers down. And yet, as buildings grow ever taller, the tools at their disposal are increasingly not up to the task, and skyscraper denizens find themselves in mounting jeopardy.
Go up 10 stories, you're spent.
They run out of air in a position where they can't get out.
Lose a lot of people from the smoke.
New solutions must be found to keep not only our firefighters safe and able to do their job, but to provide innovative ways for escape. And so, with the unprecedented cooperation of New York's regional fire departments, we've assembled a team of experts in search of a solution. Our think tank will bring firefighting technology into the future.
Look at it now.
That is heavy.
This is really cool.
With an immersion in every aspect of firefighting, they will start from scratch with 48 hours to deliver new concepts for firefighters of the future.
Hello, everybody. I'm David Brin, a little older than I was in there. I never thought that TV show would cause so much trouble, but Mark Anderson had an assignment for me, a few other companies also, and that's to try to use the techniques that were used in the ArchiTechs TV show to have a little bit of fun and do some design challenges. And the special notion is, when you get to the top, when you get to alphas, they can kibitz in any field. They can meddle in anything, and even when it's none of their business, and even when where they aren't experts. So I'd like to introduce our panel this year, our CTO panel. Joe Burton is CTO of Cisco. He's the visionary who led the development of Cisco's unified communication products systems. And he also has really good taste in literature. And Ty Carlson. Ty Carlson is with Microsoft's SiArch group. He's been responsible for Microsoft's long-range strategic roadmap to a large degree, and especially green computing and adaptive computing. And that's of course, especially relevant these days. I just want to make sure that I do cover the bases. Kris Halvorsen is our veteran here on the panel. He was on a previous CTO challenge, and he was formerly at Xerox. He's Chief Innovation Officer at Intuit, and at this time in our civilization's history, I guess financial and tax software is especially relevant. Yeah. So, Eric Openshaw, welcome. He's Vice Chairman of Deloitte and helping businesses in all types of reorganization. I think it's very relevant in tough times. And Sophie Vandebroek, she's the not only the most welcome on this panel for charismatic reasons, but also because as CTO of Xerox, she's been responsible for reinvigorating their entire product line. And what's more is she's bringing some research that is highly relevant to this topic that has just been achieved by Xerox PARC, and it is just staggeringly wonderful stuff. Now you may be wondering why we asked you here today. I want to emphasize that the CTO challenge, the #1 thing is to have fun, and you're not here to be sweated, as sometimes happens. I was just in DC last week with an unnamed agency where they sweated us. They thought the best way to get ideas out of us. I don't think I'll go there. Let's just say the methods they used were enhanced. Let's.
You're sweating us here too.
Yes. Let's start the. Okay, so this is the CTO challenge. I've mentioned everybody's names except I'll get to some of our special helpers after we get through a few more slides. And I know PowerPoints aren't really the best thing for FiRe conferences, but sometimes you just gotta put the words up. Okay, so is this clicker working? Great. As you can see, we had a familiar face up there last year, a couple of them, doing the wonderful challenges that we had before. And let me go over a few of those challenges. Clicker's not really working very well, Scott. We had several guys starting off the first year with the challenge of design the next cell phone. And it resulted in a wonderful Lego design where you could mix and match the parts you were going to take with you in any direction. If you felt you wanted a great big thick one that you could read a book off of, you could make that, but your basic core cell phone could do a number of wonderful things, and we just won't go into that, but you can find it on the FiRe site. The next year, it was very relevant because we had just finished a terrible fire season, well, except for fire conference, but a terrible fire season in San Diego. I was out there in my green helmet, my civilian volunteer CERT helmet, helping man sheriff's checkpoints. The citizens of San Diego really held together very well, and so did the professional first responders, much better than the 2003 fires. But they came to us and they said, can you give us some more advice? And we had experts here from in fact, we had one of the county supervisors here, and they were very, very impressed with the design that came up. As a matter of fact, something happened that I don't think anybody in the fire conference can remember happening. I remember when we were taking our report here, Marx came out here, sauntered in front of all of us, and I was thinking to myself, what have I done wrong? And he stopped and he said, take as much time as you want. I don't think that's ever happened before, so you have a heavy burden of being very interesting this year. So, we've done air, we've done fire. This year's challenge is, drum roll please, water. Water beyond tomorrow. How to provide San Diego, and by extrapolation the world, with an adequate, safe source of water in the future decades. Now, it's interesting that we segued up here from Australia, which is experiencing a 12-year drought. Australia is in many ways the cutting edge of how Western civilization, how civilization in general, has to deal with a planet that may be shrugging a little bit about the itch that we've been causing on her surface, thereby plugging my novel Earth, I guess. So what we have here is a problem. Areas of the Earth getting more and more parched, and especially areas of Earth in which varying levels of the rivers and the available potable water or refreshable water supplies are being more and more highly utilized. And there are many parts of the planet where the utilization rate is over 70%. In California, we have a problem that 80% of it goes to agriculture in what was once a desert, and may be on its way towards becoming a desert again. The problem is actually pretty much obvious to everybody. But the question is, might a little technological innovation and some insights from the outside help to resolve this crisis? So what we have is various things being done. Sophie's going to show us a fascinating new approach to removing particulate matter from an effluent stream. Right near here, right near where I live, about 20 miles north of here, they have just received clearance to break ground. I've toured the test facility there for what will be the largest desalination plant in the Western Hemisphere, just 20 minutes north of here. And if any of you are hanging around after the fire conference, who knows, maybe we can arrange a tour. So obviously, you know, as Coleridge said, water, water everywhere, but nary a drop to drink. We have to change that problem, and ideally, the core essence of the Western Enlightenment civilization is zero-sum game. Screw zero-sum games. I want my cake, I want to eat it, I want to share it, and I want more cake for my descendants. That's what we're all about. And so far, we've managed to have a pretty good ride the last 3 generations doing that. We're up against the wall in some ways now, but it's time for the tough to get going and innovating and make that pie bigger for everybody, including the salmon. So here's some categories of interest. Monitor for you guys on the panel: monitoring, communications and decision-making, fostering conservation and recycling, finding and developing new resources, anticipating and responding to global changes. What can governments, corporations, and citizens do? Most of you know from last year that the empowering of local citizens in neighborhoods is a special passion of mine. Fostering robustness and lessons for a civilization at risk. Now, in this challenge scenario, as Mark envisioned it, as you can see, I'm a little overbearing. So the change is I'm not one of the challengees, I'm the challenger. So I play the role that the four-star general played in one episode and the Fire Commissioner Von Essen played in another one. I'm going to stand and say, "Smarty pantses, go thou forth and solve things." So here's the schedule. The challenge is being given right now. At 4 o'clock, we have a breakout session, and any of you are invited to participate. Thursday, there will be informal brainstorm sessions. Tonight, I imagine you'll get together. And then a formal breakout session tomorrow afternoon at 3:30, and then at Friday morning, 10 a.m., I will be sitting in this same chair saying, "Smarty pants, dazzle us." And this is the crew. This is the group that I've already introduced, except that I would like some people to stand at this point. Larry Smarr. Gosh, you've never seen Larry Smarr before, have you? Over there. He's our host tomorrow night, head of Cal IT 2, and he's going to be on the committee. And Tom Malloy, another old hand, he's going to play a role this year of breakout challenger or breakout champion. And he's going to be playing special role during the breakout sessions. And we have Joe Sterling back from 2 years ago. Joe, stand up. Joe is going to be our graphic facilitator. He's going to be writing on foam board. By the way, if any of you live in the area and you have some butcher paper, we could use some. And finally, I'd like to introduce a special guest star. Last year, it was County Supervisor Roberts and several of his staff. I'd like Bill Rose to step up and wave his hand. And Bill Rose is from the San Diego Water Authority. We've had some special cooperation facilitated by Larry Smarr. So there are various resources that we've mailed out to these guys. If you have a quick pen, you could copy down a couple of these so you could look them up on your own. There's some particularly good ones at the Sandia site and the California Department of Water Resources. This is so any of you who might want to can do some poking away on your own between now and the 4 o'clock session or afterwards. Now, the fireside thing is not going to happen. I had thrown together a chat system that I thought, people might enjoy and use to pass notes while other people are talking. But it looks as if it's probably not going to be up. I'll let you know if it winds up being available. And so, go forth and thrash those ideas and report back to us Friday morning. And that last line is especially relevant. Have fun being brilliant. And that leaves us with 16 minutes. Instead of hogging the stage, I'm actually prepared to pass it over to you guys. And do any of you have any preliminary thoughts about the challenge that you're facing?
Sure.
All right, great.
It's very important.
Weigh in, Sophie.
Okay, I think it is a critical problem, not only for San Diego, but for the world, obviously. I think within San Diego, we're close to the ocean, so a natural reaction would be, can I capture more of the ocean water and clean it, desalinate it, etc.? I do believe it has to be as well as within the individual homes, is there a way to turn brown water into clean water? So if we can come up with some kind of a scalable system that can both do the large systems capturing the ocean water and then maybe recycling people's home use of water or companies, etc., that would be fantastic.
I think the issue of agriculture is maybe at the heart of all of this, in that 3 of the top 10 importing or exporting countries are in the top 3 of the top 10 countries that don't have enough water, and vice versa. You've got 3 of the top 10 countries that have the most water doing the most amount of importing. So there probably is a need here to figure out how we balance the global agricultural system to better utilize the water where it's at. And this gets into things like how much water it takes to grow an item versus how much energy it takes to ship the item from where it's grown, and there's a huge trade-off there. So I think it's a daunting challenge, and not to be critical of what you said, but it is a bit of a net sum zero game in that we got the same amount of water here now that we had 10 billion years ago. We stopped making it about then, so we do need to figure out how to use this more efficiently.
So I was inspired by the approach that we heard about yesterday at the dinner, that you have a huge global problem, but you can also affect the outcome through local solutions. So while being really aware of who the big consumers are, obviously we can't crack this problem if we don't know who it is that is the biggest demand generator on water. And even if that isn't each individual, clearly by being more informed, and information technology certainly has the capacity of keeping us more informed about how we impact through our own actions, consumption. I like that balance.
Yes,
and I'm very motivated because even though I don't live in San Diego, so I won't benefit from our brilliant solutions right away, I live in a house that is 1,000 feet above the well and about a mile above the well, and one that's a well that's threatened by the Big Sur wildfire from last year, because the whole environment basically disintegrated, and the river may very well fill up with sludge and other bad stuff that will take our water away too. So I certainly have a personal passion as well as some compassion for this.
Well, Dr. Ramanathan certainly put the context, put the problem in context. We face a severe test of our ability to invent our way out of problems.
Yeah, the interesting thing in looking through some of the preliminary reading was the situation with the state of California from a financial situation, and the focus to the greatest extent for the state of California is basically in the Sacramento area because of the agricultural breadbasket that is that part of it. So it creates a bit of a challenge for San Diego, because a lot of if there are funds, the funds will probably be redirected elsewhere. So to some extent, San Diego is going to have to work with what they have as far as materials go and be very inventive and creative about what we do with things. But to your point regarding proximity to the ocean and noting things such as water going over the cooling towers and basically being evaporated, one of the things we could easily do is use ocean water that's a much cooler temperature to provide a heat exchanger and not run the drinkable water over the cooling towers for evaporation. So there are some very practical steps that can be taken. But also, I think to your point regarding using technologies, one is that when you see the Facebook and the MySpace generation and the social networking generation, there is a sense of accountability and community that and connection that we haven't seen because it was too difficult. But everybody, allowing people to realize how much water they're conserving, how they're contributing to both good and bad, that we can really use technology to make a difference and for people to be proud of the effort that they put forward.
Well, it's interesting, David. I've actually lived in kind of every side of the water problem. I grew up in a Midwest town that you just threw seeds on the ground, and there was the right amount of water for crops to just grow and grow and grow with no irrigation. Spent most of my adult life in Seattle, where God did we wish there was less water, as Ty probably does right now.
Well, you're keeping it for yourself. I've been asking for you to send some down here.
Well, and these days I actually live not too far from Sacramento in a town that, frankly, without a bunch of unnatural water acts would not exist. You know, I mean, we got our last rain a couple of weeks ago, and we can confidently say that there will not be another drop until October, even though I have a pool and a bunch of trees in the yard. So, okay, there's something a little upside down here. And when Mark and David put this problem to us a couple of weeks ago, being one of these smarty pants, as I think you called us, I thought, well, geez, how hard could this be? Yeah. And then we went through, and I've probably read 600 or 800 pages now. I had a couple of long plane flights. I think Eric's on the right track. I mean, one of the big pieces here we're going to have to take a look at is how do we really align usage in a particular area with the water that it can actually bear. Moving water is an expensive, lossy activity. We need to bring some of the technologies for refinement that Sophie talked about so each area can primarily sustain itself. Wow. Living in California, though, and understanding the politics here around unraveling some of the artificial subsidies and whatnot, I'm glad all we have to do is think of the solution, not actually implement it.
Well, you know, you find yourself in an awkward position because, of course, you're being asked to give advice to a community of experts who have been thinking about this problem, and in this case, not just the firefighters fighting community that we had last year, but now you're talking about a wide range of possibilities. For instance, I consider it within your purview to say, all right, well, this might be something that demands research. In other words, this may be an under-researched particular area. And so one of our recommendations is that either the government or some foundation, or perhaps an X Prize. Keith, why don't you join the breakout and suggest this as a possibility, some X Prize award for coming up with just what you think is a bottleneck, identifying bottlenecks for solving problems. One of the things that excited me about the research that Sophie's going to talk about from Xerox PARC is how scalable it is.
It's very scalable.
Because one of the things that people are talking about with solving the energy crisis is how can we make homes as independent as possible? If you cover the roofs of homes with solar water heating and solar electric, then not only do you take care of a large part of the problem and get rid of your transmission problems, but also you make society more robust. Every home can be a castle if there's a breakdown. Well, it's not going to be that way if they have no water. That's more important than the electricity and the water heating. So any way that we might have to be able to take not your brown water, but say, for instance, the gray water coming off your showers or your dishwasher or your washing machine, and to be able to use that for gray water appropriate uses like taking care of your lawn. Where my mother-in-law just moved in, half the front lawns have been xeriscaped and replaced with pebbles. You see this a lot in Arizona, and it's maybe a trend that should be encouraged.
Yeah. In addition to all the bottled water that people drink, right? I mean, there is so much of the, I watched the movie Flow that you recommended we should watch. I don't know if any of you have watched it, but a lot of the water was just for bottled water. But yes, during the breakout, I will show a little video. It's a 1-minute video of a new water filtration system that cut the energy required to filter out particulars out of water, as well as goes after some of the ions, etc. Significantly, and the volume cut it down by 90%. It's very scalable, made of off-the-shelf components. And I believe the beauty is so much of the earth is covered with water, right? So there's plenty of water. The question is, how do we get it to the individual homes, to the right people, etc. So to me, it's less of necessarily a technology problem, because there are definitely solutions with many bright people around the globe working the technological problems. It's everything else, right? The distribution, the politics, the regulations, etc.
I have that movie, by the way. It'll be at the breakout session, and people can borrow it, pass it around, and watch it. Yeah, it's very important. There's a geopolitical aspect to this, too. Using their great big cash reserves, a number of the Persian Gulf nations are really building desalination. And greenhouses. Greenhouses are another thing. They've just opened a major greenhouse here in California, one of these greenhouse architectural hydroponics companies. Massive greenhouse. in which they are gathering their own solar energy as well as just complete, getting close to maybe 30% closed cycle, which is so vastly better than just doing a little demo project, which they did at the Biosphere in Arizona. But to be able to get a 30, 40% closed cycle in greenhouses. But the geopolitical aspect are the Saudis preparing for an era when they will then be the cartel of a completely different kind of product. Shall we open things up for the audience? Any of you have any things you want to say? We have 5 minutes left. Or Mark, you could claim the 5 minutes.
There's a question in the back.
Yes. If you could stand up and turn toward the audience and shout. Oh, got a microphone for you.
Yeah, I'm Scott Gardner with Advantage Engineering. Hey, David, you were just talking about the Saudis, and that's what I was going to ask. Is this water problem perhaps something that will be solved with free energy? I mean, surely you can basically build big stills and boil off the water and reclaim it. I mean, isn't that, if you had an energy solution, would that then naturally flow to a water solution?
Well, especially since if you have adequate energy, there are some downstream possible ways of getting fresh water from salt water that are less brutal than simply boiling,
Yeah.
and less brutal than even pushing them through reverse osmosis filters. I mean, there are some things downstream that our grandchildren may take for granted, God and our own creativity willing. But God helps those who create solutions for themselves, I guess, is the updated version. Anybody else? Yeah.
David, I have a question for you, or a concern. When looking at water, I'm David Engel here from North Platte Public School District, and we are a place where we pull our water mostly out of an ancient aquifer. Issues about purity, I think, need to be discussed too, because there's water and there's water and there's water. Interestingly enough, when I came to North Platte, because I'm from the Seattle area where we're more concerned about environmental issues than maybe some people in the Midwest are currently, I tested the well water and found some interesting things out about the purity of the water there. And there isn't much discussion in the area about that because it immediately impacts some interests, agriculture being one, chemical production, railroad, waste products, et cetera. So you can imagine kind of, as you said, the political front there. But I think we need to pay attention to the purity issue and what we test for and what water contains going forward. So consider that.
I think this is very powerfully related to what we were talking about earlier about citizen level involvement. The 20th century has been a long monotonic increase of our dependence on professionalism. And we tend to be the professionals somewhere along this curve, but then we rely on everybody else to handle everything else. And we rely upon the governments to check the purity of our water. Well, this is going to change as we gain more and more of the sensor systems that the earlier CTO challenge was talking about installing in our cell phones. And some of our protectors in the CIA and Homeland Security are now talking about equipping everybody's cell phones with chemical detectors that are now expensive and in the soldiers' hands in Iraq. And it was those soldiers who caught Blackwater services, not Blackwater, I'm sorry, Halliburton, having promised them clean water and delivering them water that had been completely untreated for their showers and their drinking. So this business of democratizing the ability to detect a problem, I think is terribly important because you have aquifers that are being poisoned accidentally by sabotage, potential terrorism, and by just criminality, dumping things. My crackpot theory is that this is why Somalia has been allowed to be a lawless state for the last 20 years, is because it's a convenient place for people to go and just dump things. So I think that's a very good point, and I think that how to keep our water supplies from being sometimes permanently compromised, I think is an important thing for the team to consider. I think we have 1 minute left, so do any of you have any last? Yeah. One.
There's
yes.
another one.
You, sir.
I'll shout. I'm Roger Payne. There are a number of agricultural techniques which are used successfully, including such things as developing saltwater tolerant plants to feed to livestock, for example. They've been done very much, much is done with them in some of the Arab countries. I'm betting that the answer to this is not desalinization, that will just turn out to be too expensive. But there are also techniques which involve raising trees, for example, in areas that cannot possibly from their rainfall raise trees and are not irrigated, and doing it by putting pieces of plastic underneath trees which catch dew and condensation coming from below, and the tree thrives. A lot of work of that sort has been done. I would suggest that ought to be looked at as well.
And in the 3 seconds left, let me please invite you to take part in this session, because it sounds like you'd be very valuable. And so, go thou forth and bring us back solutions.